The FBI seem to like you.
Do they?
Are you the best negotiator in the world?
The tough conversations is my everyday. But this one was so incredibly difficult.
Look, you've obviously been through a hell of a lot, and very few people will ever be able to relate to you. But did you ever blame yourself?
Let me tell you this. It's a genetic condition. It comes from the mother. It can also happen randomly. And imagine, he's 5 years old. He can walk, he can run, he can talk, he can do everything. You don't see anything. And they said there's something really wrong.
What's the one negotiation that you've had that's been very unpeaceful?
Unfortunately, more than 90% of global negotiations are competitive.
God, she's already negotiating. She's already negotiating. It's been 3 minutes. How do you deal with narcissists? What's your tip?
I have worked for narcissistic bosses. I have partnered with narcissistic people. I have been abused. Man, did you use ChatGPT to make these questions?
These are amazing. These are all done by me.
Impressive.
Today's guest is Lousin Mehrabi. Lousin is a certified professional negotiator and is considered to be one of the very best and most influential negotiators on the planet. She's even trained some of the FBI's best hostage negotiators. She's got 3 graduate degrees, she's got 4 nationalities, and she speaks 5 languages. And oh yes, she's got 23 years experience in negotiations. I've never been more intimidated before a recording. On today's episode, we cover how to negotiate and how to win an argument. But importantly, we also look beyond her amazing career and we talk openly about her personal adversity that she's gone through and the life insights that she's learned. This episode is a perfect blend of intelligence with empathy.
Lousin Mehrabi, an experienced negotiator specialized in financial and commercial negotiations, and inspirational speaker.
Well, my son was diagnosed a few years ago with a fatal condition called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which breaks down his muscles. He's now 13 years old, he's in a wheelchair, and this disease will continue to break down his muscles until at one point he can't move anything anymore. The 3 W's I always say. Number 1, why? Ask yourself, why am I negotiating? What is the real need that I'm trying to satisfy here?
This movie is not about us. This movie is from us. So this movie I'm very grateful to be a part of. I'm very grateful to be able to share the story of these amazing mothers.
Lousin, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm a bit petrified.
Why?
Because you are so impressive. Your CV is ridiculous. Your experience is unbelievable. So I'm sitting here, I'm going, right, this woman knows how to negotiate, right? She knows how to answer. She knows how to get what she wants. So I'm a little bit apprehensive. Honestly, that's how I feel.
Really?
Yes.
You don't have to chill.
So make me feel calmer. How can you make me feel less intimidated by someone like yourself?
I would say we can do some deep breathings.
Deep breathing, okay. Are you that kind of meditative type of person?
Well, research shows that the fastest way to change your mindset and the way you handle fear, because what it basically is that you're feeling now is fear, right?
No, I'm okay.
Behind the bullshit you just said, there is fear. So then the fastest way is to use your body and go through it through physiology. So I would, do the breathing.
I've done. I used to do the 4-7-8 rule, right? So you breathe in 4 seconds, hold for 7, and let go of 8. But it has to be in through your nose and out through your mouth.
Right.
When you try the other way, it doesn't work as effectively. But
no, it's interesting. When you want to energize your body, you need to breathe in more and faster than you breathe out. So there's specific breathing techniques for that. And when you want to calm it and relax it, you need to breathe out longer than you breathe in.
Fair enough.
So what you just said is correct. And then the fastest way, research showed, because there are so many different modalities, right? Like millions. This is all from thousands of years old from Ayurvedic backgrounds. But the physiological side, how it's called? It's like, and then one more, and then you breathe out.
Love it. I already feel
2 or 3 times, I
already feel calmer.
Calm.
Look, I've done a lot of research on you, okay? And the thing is, it's like an onion. The more I do research, the more impressed I get, and there's just so many different layers. And it's very difficult to think about what is my first kind of question going to be to you. So what I do on my show is I have my get out of jail card, right? Where I basically say, tell me about your mug. So my mug question is my icebreaker. So talk to me about your mug. What do we have here?
So you asked me to bring a mug that you're going to keep. So already I didn't like it.
I've started off fantastically well. Yeah.
Why do I have to give a mug that you're going to keep? Because you said bring a mug that you care about.
Yeah, your
but that
favorite
I'm
mug.
going to keep. So I'm like, if I care about it, why should I?
Look, I'm being a gentleman because I have to forewarn you. What I can't do is tell you, bring your favorite mug. Oh yeah, by the way, and you're going to take it back with you. No, I have to tell you the truth because over your shoulder, you can see, and even over here, there's a lot of mugs that have basically
what you just said
been stolen by myself.
So you're saying bring a mug that you care about, and
Yeah.
then I'm going to keep it, which
Yes.
is, I think, not a very nice thing.
Yeah.
And then
I'm not
you're
a
like,
nice guy.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not.
I'm telling the truth. Because you're telling the truth doesn't make the thing you asked for.
God, she's already
nice all of a
negotiating. She's
sudden,
already
you see.
negotiating. It's been 3 minutes. I'm already losing. Abort. No, but talk to me about the story of the mug. Come on.
All right, the mug. So, as you can see, it's a mug from Doha, Qatar. And I care about it because I've been to Qatar 3 times, and each 3 times have been unforgettable. I'll tell you the first story because it's such an amazing, beautifully story, and it will illustrate the power of care, the power of connection, the power of being there for people. It's just an amazing story. So I'll try to make it short. I posted one day a post on LinkedIn about the most difficult conversation in my life. The most difficult conversation in my life that I had to have. And you know, I'm a negotiator, so tough conversations is my everyday. But this one was so incredibly difficult because it was the conversation where I had to tell my son that he has an, for now, incurable disease. That conversation was so difficult for me to prepare, to anticipate, to use the right words, and to make sure that he would leave more empowered than depressed. And I had the conversation, we took a picture. I looked horrible because I'd been crying for like a week every day preparing for this conversation. My eyes were red, my hair was funky, it was in the morning, I had no makeup on. And we just took the picture in that moment, and I posted that picture with the post sharing what had just happened. And look at, it went completely viral. When I say viral, it's like millions of views. On LinkedIn, I had more than 100,000 likes. Like, that just doesn't happen on LinkedIn. I was like, whoa, it went all over the place. The press picked it up. They wrote articles about it. It went completely viral. And why did it go so viral? Because I was sharing so authentically about one of the most difficult moments in my life where I had zero power about what I was going to say because I couldn't change it or make it any better.
It's not in your control.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the worst feelings on the planet, when you feel powerless.
And you wanted to tell your son rather than him
Finding out
from someone else.
from Google.
So this happened in Doha.
No, so this happened in Dubai, in my garden, all good. But when I posted that,
Yeah.
I wrote that one of the things that my son loves most is football. And following that, I got a message from somebody from FIFA, who I had never met, who I didn't know. And he said, Luz, I love the story. I would like to send you some goodies that you can give to your son, Alexander. Can I have your address? I said, sure. So I give my address. He sent me some goodies, like a bag and keychain and stuff. Wonderful. And then he said, if you ever come to Qatar, let me know. This was a man, a British man living in Qatar, working for FIFA for the IT department and preparing for the World Cup. I said, sure. And of course, we did everything we could to go to Qatar for the World Cup. And we did. Long story short, we go to Doha. I send him a WhatsApp. We're almost there. We're going to that and that match. And he said, okay, I have a surprise for you. Another surprise. And when we arrived at the stadium, this was incredible, Luca. I will never forget it. One of his colleagues was waiting for us. And she said, Alex is going to come with me and one of the parents. So I went. And she drove us inside the tunnel where the players come out.
Wow.
And she said, you're allowed to stay here. Don't take pictures. Don't make any noise. But right now, the players are going to come out.
Alex must have absolutely loved
Oh, my God. He was sitting there in his wheelchair, and the players of France start coming out, and he was wearing the jersey of Kylian Mbappé.
Yeah.
And
So he's
players come
team
out.
France, is he?
Yes, absolutely. He is French. So the players look at us, wink at us. It was amazing. And the last one was Kylian Mbappé, and he recognizes his jersey, obviously. And he comes to us, and he hugged Alex. And I said, can I take a quick picture? He's like, yeah, sure. So we take this picture, and this picture is now in Alexander's room, and we look at it every day and become super happy. And then I see that FIFA lady looking at me like, I just told you no pictures. But of course I had to do it. And then following that, another amazing event happened, and Alex was allowed to go back with another team when the Dutch were playing. He's also Dutch. And now he was on the stadium when they were singing the national anthem.
Amazing.
And yeah, that week in Doha, it was my first time in Qatar, was just so unforgettable. But the story becomes even better. So these were unforgettable.
Pretty great story already, yeah.
Right? So these were unforgettable events for me and my family. My son will never forget this. I felt so much gratitude to the man who made that happen. And so we invited them for lunch, him and his colleagues and their wives, the children. And they said, Luz, after the World Cup ends, our job stops here, but we love the Middle East and we would love to stay here. Is there any way that you could use your influence on LinkedIn to help us find a job? Whether it's in Qatar, in the UAE, doesn't matter. I said, yeah, sure. So I wrote another post saying, these are the gentlemen who made it happen. If you happen to hire in IT, reach out to them. And then a big company here in the UAE reached out to him, offered him a job. They moved to Dubai, and that's how the story ends.
My goodness.
Isn't that beautiful?
What a story.
Yeah.
All from that mug. I wish every guest had those types of stories. Honestly, I've got some of them up there. I mean, they're
So when I look at my beautiful mug, I love it. And then I have two other stories, but no need to share those. But I just love Doha. I love Qatar, and for everything that the experience I've had there. So that's why when you said your favorite mug, I thought about this one immediately. And then you said, I'm going to keep it. I'm like, why? I don't want to keep it.
Well, see, I think I know what you've done there. I think what you've done is that I was going to take your mug. So you're giving me another mug, and your favorite mug is still stashed at your home in your kitchen.
True. I just decided, while I was taking this from the kitchen, I decided I have to go back to Qatar so I can buy another mug.
It's very nice of you, and it's a beautiful story. So before we go any further, because I do want to talk a little bit about your son, because you brought it up. I usually ask my guests for a safe word. So it's a way in which, in case I ask something that they don't want to go into, they have a get-out-of-jail card. So what is your safe word? Can I call you Luz?
Yeah, sure.
You said it a few times. Luz?
My friends call me Luz.
Okay, I'm not there yet. Maybe by the end of the episode.
Almost.
Yeah. So what is your safe word?
I think we could just say stop.
Stop. That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So is that a negotiation tactic?
For me, if I say stop and somebody doesn't listen, then I need to use something else than words.
So you mentioned your son Alex. So and the condition that he has. Can you elaborate so we can understand a little bit more?
Absolutely. I love every opportunity I get.
You're doing a lot of work. You're doing a lot of work to raise awareness around it.
Absolutely, because it's important, because it's a rare disease that most people have never heard of. I never had heard of it. It's called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It's a condition that breaks down the muscles. That's actually not fully correct if you really go into it. It's basically, when you and I go to the gym, we use weights to deliberately break our muscles, right? We break the muscle tissue and then it grows back stronger.
Yeah.
That part doesn't work with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. The rebuilding, the protein that we need to rebuild muscle tissue, it doesn't work. So what does that mean? Every day his muscles are breaking and they don't grow back. So over time, the muscles don't work anymore. And we have more than 600 muscles in the body. Everything we do it with our muscles. Speaking, talking, winking, laughing, even coughing. We use our abs to cough. So imagine when all that breaks down, all the functions basically shut off one by one.
And the life expectancy is mid-20s typically, is that right?
Late teens, mid-20s.
When did you discover that he had this? How
9th
old?
of June 2017. Those are the
2017.
dates you never forget. Yeah.
How old was he at the time?
He just turned 6.
He just turned 6. Was he showing any signs before that?
He couldn't really jump high, or he wasn't very clear.
And he would get tired a lot.
He would get tired a lot indeed, but doctors weren't taking me seriously when I was talking about it. They said, you know what? One time a doctor said, if I can ask you, are you very active? Are you physically active? Are you like a sports person? I'm like, no, not at all. Well, he's just like you.
Yeah.
So those were the type of bullshit I got.
Yeah, ignorance, dismissive, and laziness. I mean, it's all three playing a role.
Exactly. Maybe he's just lazy. Maybe he just doesn't want to run. Maybe he's just an introvert.
Yeah, and then the transition from him being able to walk upstairs, do regular things, it happened quite quickly to him no longer being able to do that. I mean, how scary is that, where literally within a matter of 2 or 3 months, he's gone from point A and then changed completely?
Yeah.
You know, how difficult was that for you to readjust or adjust to?
Well, the difficulty is that they're born, everything seems normal. They develop as normal children. They can do everything until around the age of 6, 7. And then it starts to go down, go down, go down. So they know how it is to walk. They know how it is to run. So it's basically, you know it, and then it gets taken away
from you.
I mean, like if you're born with, let's say, one leg, you never know how to walk. That's just your reality. But this reality changes, and it changes very quickly, as you said. Yeah. By the time, most children, by the time they're 10, 11, they can no longer walk.
But do you ever blame yourself?
Let me tell you this. It's a genetic condition. It comes from the mother. And it can also happen randomly when it doesn't come from the mother. In my case, I don't have the gene, so it didn't come from me. It's called what we call random mutation. And I always felt so much empathy for the women who did have that gene, but it's still not their fault. I mean, they didn't know. And I'm like, what if I did have that gene? Would I feel guilty the rest of my life? Because I can imagine that, although it wouldn't be justified, and there's nobody to blame for this. It's just a genetic condition. So I think because I didn't have the gene, I didn't feel guilty, because no. But I feel guilty, like many other parents, about a million other things.
Yeah. You have 2 kids.
Yes.
So how is the relationship between both your kids?
Oh my God. It used to be cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Now it's slightly improving.
Now it's mouse and cat. What is it?
It used to be just, I hate you, I love you. Now they get along a little bit better.
What's the name of your other?
My daughter's name is Elise.
Elise, yes.
Elise, yeah.
And she's older or younger?
11, she's younger.
So how difficult is it for Elise or you to be with Elise when you have Alex in the situation that he's in, and you kind of have to manage that dynamic?
Well, I think for every special need parent, that is one of the biggest challenges. How do I give as much time and attention to the healthy child while I'm so preoccupied with the child who has special needs? And it's a battle that you can never win, because you can never give as much time, because there are simply things that need to be done for the child who has those needs. And that's where communication comes in, and emotional intelligence, and honesty and authenticity. I have apologized to Elise. I said, I'm sorry that I cannot and will never be able to spend as much time with you as I spend time with Alex. She sees how often I go to the hospital and the clinics, and of course it's not like a fun ride, right? But we have to do it. And often when I come back from a full day of hospital visits, I'm tired. So then I don't have the energy to jump around with Elise and dance with her. And, it's also the mental load and the emotional load. So, she probably doesn't get the best of me as I maybe could have been if I didn't have a sick child. But at the same time, I am the mother I am because I had Alex and all the experiences. And I go all in on emotional intelligence and emotional communication and talking about what matters, and the expressions of the emotions that we feel. That now Elise is a wonderfully emotionally intelligent young lady. She's so good in expressing her needs and her emotions and what she goes through. Like, I kid you not, Luca, if you meet her once, you will be so impressed.
I would love to.
This child is amazing.
Is she a good negotiator?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. She's one of the best I know.
You've obviously been through a hell of a lot, and very few people will ever be able to relate to you. How should someone like myself or any person that you meet, when they speak to you, how do you want them to feel when they talk to you?
Empowered. I want them to see their own power through whatever they see in me. Because we're always a reflection of the other person, right? Like, everything you said about me is a reflection of what you have inside of you as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't recognize it in me.
Yeah, and I think it's an important thing, because I've had people in the past who have come on who've had disabilities, who've had challenges, who've had children who have special needs. And a lot of times, I don't want you to feel bad for me. I don't want your sympathy. I've had someone who's had cancer 3 times, recovered.
Wow.
And the question, when I asked her something relatively similar, it was just leave me alone. I don't need anything. Stop coming to me. Stop giving me extra. I know you mean well, but leave me alone. And others saying, I just don't need your sympathy. So when people are talking to you and they hear a story about your son everything that's on your plate, it's difficult for me to not feel so empathetically with you on the situation that you're in, if I have the capacity. But a lot of people will try and approach things in a different way with you.
Yeah.
Does that bother you, or do you understand why they're doing it? They have good intentions, but it lands very badly.
Yeah, the intentions are always good, so I am empathetic towards that. A few tips I would give in general, because I think this can be useful for people, is the worst thing you can do when you see someone going through an emotion is pretend it's not there. That apathy is worse than any wrong comment you could make. Okay, and I say this in negotiations as well. Don't ignore when somebody's going through an emotion, because they feel like you're ignoring them. So the importance of learning about emotional intelligence and connecting with your own emotions is so that you can then recognize it in other people and have that empathy that you are feeling now, which is not the case for everyone, right?
Yeah.
So learn about your own emotions, befriend your own emotions so that you can be there for people when they're going through emotions. And you don't have to say anything clever or smart, but don't pretend it's not happening.
Yeah, bury your head in the sand just to avoid that. I had a guest, I think it's season 2. Remember, I'm getting old.
You're my age. We're not old.
No, but it's the mileage. It's not the age. Her name was Mimi Nicklin, and she's she's big time. She's a big time empathy advocate, and she says empathy really is about not having any pre-bias or any judgment. It's about understanding more than it is about trying to advise or, How do you feel about that? And how much does that play a role in even, not just about how you deal with the situations that you've been in from a personal perspective, but also how you deal with negotiations itself?
Well, I think it's beautifully said, but not doable, because we all walk around with biases. We all have beliefs, we all have ideas, we all have opinions. So to say I'm going to go in completely neutral,
it's very difficult.
It's very difficult. I see it as a willingness to try to understand what's happening for another party.
Yeah.
It's the journey. It's the attitude. It's the mindset. This is how I advise everyone to walk into a negotiation. That curiosity and empathy. I want to understand what matters to you. That's empathy.
There's a lot of questions that we'll cover that sort of touch on what you're saying. But before we get there, are you the best negotiator in the world?
No, I would never say that about myself. And I think it's a nice question you ask, because I think there's a difference between men and women, because I have many, many male colleagues, right? Other professional negotiators. And if you look at their LinkedIn profile, one of them calls himself the best this, the other one the most awarded that, the other one the number one this, or the number one that. And I always wonder, based on what? Which data? Which numbers?
It's based
Who
on,
made that
you
up?
know what it's based on?
Calling yourself number one.
The inherent male ego.
Huge.
It's the inherent male ego.
I haven't found a single woman on earth who calls herself that.
Yeah.
In the negotiation world, maybe in other worlds they do, but the number one, I'm like, wow, like calling yourself the number one in the world, yeah? I mean, one of the, sure. If somebody called you once something, sure.
Yeah.
But statistically, how can you know from the 9 billion people that we are that you are
you will never
number one?
Yeah, you need an independent body. You need an independent body that does some sort of ranking based on some metrics.
Maybe there is like a farmer in China nobody ever heard of who is the best negotiator in the world. You see?
I'm with you. The FBI seem to like you. Why did the FBI rate you so highly?
My mentor is the former chief hostage negotiator of the FBI, Mr. Gary Nesner. I love his work, I love his mindset, and I love how generous he is in training the next generations of professional negotiators. He's done amazing work at the Bureau. He was there for 30 years.
Wow.
He has negotiated many, many deals where the stakes were very, very high, literally life and death situations. He was the lead negotiator for the Waco incident in Texas, if you remember that one. So it's such an honor for me to be trained by him, to be mentored by him. He sends me texts very regularly saying, "Hey, Louis, how are you doing?" When I'm going through something difficult, he's the first person I text. I'm just very grateful to work with him and to learn everything that he taught to the FBI negotiator.
The thing is that you have just so many remarkable stories. And I go back to The Onion. You've got 4 nationalities. That's an episode in itself, by the way, dealing with multicultural kind of backgrounds and, you know. Then you've got the sort of the 5 languages that you speak, which is nuts, by the way. It's unbelievable. Then you've got, what, 3 graduate degrees or something, you know, and then you've been negotiating for like, what, 23 years? I mean, and then you have the personal adversity that you've been through. It's remarkable. The problem I have is I've only got an hour and a bit to get through all of that stuff. When you wake up every single day, okay, you're not thinking about your degrees. You're not thinking about your languages or your nationalities or all that kind of stuff. But you've got so much stuff, kind of past experience, weight that you're carrying. How you do it? How do you do it?
How I do it because I love. Because I love my children and because I love my clients. The love gives me the energy.
Did you always want to be a negotiator? Because you kind of stumbled into it. You were doing finance or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
No, I was working in investment banking for
Investment banking.
On and off 15 years, yeah.
So how did you end up getting into this?
Well, I was working for the Paris Stock Exchange.
Okay.
Doing my thing. Of course, a lot of negotiations involved. And then they brought in 2 professional negotiators. I got an email. There's a lunch and learn. Want to attend? Because sure, I always love learning. And there's this hostage negotiator from the French Special Forces that shows up. And he's dressed in like suit and everything. And we weren't that, suity. So I'm like, okay, he must be impressed and thinking that at the stock exchange we all walk around with suits.
Did you like him?
I liked what he said.
Okay.
It was super interesting because from a young age, I've been fascinated by human behavior. I think when I was around 14, I went to the library with my sister and I took a book called How to Become a Better Lobbyist.
Yeah. I saw the episode that you talked about it.
Yeah. She was like, what are you reading this? So it was just a natural interest of mine.
You're curious.
Absolutely. And then when he came and he talked about how it is to be a professional negotiator and the types of stuff he was doing, I was like, oh my God, this is so interesting. And then they gave us a year-long masterclass. Him and his colleague, Marwan Mary, who is now one of my business partners at the ADN Group, he trained me back in 2013. I remember because I was pregnant of Elise. And it was just fascinating. They taught us about negotiation, lie detection, profiling, neuroscience, emotional intelligence, self-control. Yeah. It was just, all these subjects were so fascinating. And yeah.
How good is your BS radar?
I think it's quite good. I know when I need to be humble and when I can brag, but I think my BS radar, based on the work I do, based on the necessity and based on me being a Scorpio, is just really good.
Great star sign. How quickly can you tell that they're full of shit?
It's not a matter of seconds. It's an energy and it's a feeling.
Okay.
And you read micro expressions and the face speaks earlier than the words. So if you get a hang of that, you being connected with your own intuition and giving that emphasis and trusting it, all those things make it that you become more powerful because you connect with the power that you have inside, and we all have this.
I feel that with you. You speak very calm. Your energy is very much in control. I can't imagine much that's going to get you flustered,
Oh, my kids do it all the time.
I'm sure they do. Kids are something else, right? I've got 2 terriers at home. But you've got a very calming energy. And I've heard you many times say when you go to negotiate, that state of mind is absolutely essential. You've got to be in control of your emotions. The challenge that we have, is that in the Middle East, right, this is a very emotionally driven market. Mm-hmm. People are not always in control of their emotions. So in that regard, plus the fact that you're a woman, and most of the negotiators that I've seen tend to be men. So you're a lady who's not emotional in that sense of overreacting. You're very much in control. You stand out big time. And then your skill sets are, of course, added to that. So how do you unpack that? I mean, how important is it to keep your emotions regulated? And how much of a flag do you have to fly as being, a key leader in negotiating, being a woman?
Well, it's a very important point what you say. And I always say the number one skill to be a good negotiator is self-control. There's a difference between self-control and controlling your emotions. again, it's this desire, and it would be ideal, but none of us control our emotions all the time. Like, that's just impossible. But I always say that the three elements that go hand in hand are negotiation, emotional intelligence, leadership. Those three always go hand in hand because you cannot have one without the other. If you want to be a good negotiator, you have to have strong emotional intelligence, because all the important skills that we need to be good negotiators are a part of emotional intelligence. Think about empathy, we just discussed, active listening, self-control, stress management, resilience, agility, you name it. It's all emotional intelligence. And then, of course, you have the skills and the techniques and, let's say, the hard skills.
Yeah, your toolbox of creativity.
Exactly. So those are super important. But without emotional intelligence, you cannot do anything.
Yeah, it gets you in the door, but then you need to, it's going to be entry point. Do you always win your arguments?
Of course not.
Come on. I'm going to call you Luce because we're friends now. What do you mean? What do you mean, of course not? Of course you're going to win all your arguments. How can you lose an argument?
Who wins all their arguments? Nobody does.
I guess.
And you know what? I would like to go deep, because I know you're a deep person, Luca. When you say arguments, with whom?
Yeah, that's
with other people.
That's a great question there. I can't wait to unpack.
With yourself.
Yeah.
With life.
Yeah.
With God.
Yeah.
How do you win?
Can you argue with God?
The way my journey as a professional negotiator started with the biggest no I received in my life. I was a certified professional negotiator. That sounds all cool and stuff. And I left finance because I realized there's so much more than this world.
Plus it's finance.
Plus it's fine. And I went and did a whole year of executive coaching program at HEC in Paris, which was one of the best years of my life. I loved that training so much. I loved that year so much. I did loads of other trainings. And after having worked like 60 hours a week in finance, this was like my holiday year. I was just learning, which I loved.
Such a geek. I love it.
I am a bit of a nerd. That's okay. But that year, I did like this course, and I did emotional intelligence and MBTI and parenting coaching, and I learned all of this stuff, and it was just my year. I was like, 15 years of finance, give me a break. I just want to learn new stuff until I know what I want to do. And at the end of that year, we had to write a thesis and say, okay, what are your future plans? And I still didn't know. And I was like, well, there was this negotiation course that I did back then, and I loved it, and I might reach out to them. And there was this thing that I loved, I might do that. I didn't know yet. So I get graduated in December. In February, I launched my business, as in I'm going to go solo, be a leadership coach. I thought I had it all figured out. I have my certified professional negotiator hat. I have my HEC executive coaching hat. I have my 50 million, certificates before. I'm like, this is it. I'm finally...
Easy peasy.
Finally, after all these years, I found my path. I'm just going to be a coach, and I'm going to do this and that. That was in February, and less than a month later, in March, 9th of March, I will never forget, 2017, boom, I get a call from the neurologist saying there's something wrong with Alex. And I was like, are you joking? Like, at the time where I think I can finally, do my thing, because finance wasn't my thing, and I had burnouts and suffering, and life was telling me this is not your path, and I was too stubborn to listen. So I suffered for years and years. So now by the time I was like, okay, let's go, and now you're telling me there's something wrong with my son? And they didn't know what. And imagine, he's 5 years old, he can walk, he can run, he can talk, he can do everything. You don't see anything. And they said there's something really wrong. Anyway, so we went through about 100 days of tests and analysis. That was hell. I think that was the worst period of my life. Until we got the diagnosis. So I still remember when they said there's something wrong, and it can be A, it can be B, it can be C, or D, and D is Duchenne muscular dystrophy, worst case scenario. I still remember the moment I walked out in my garden. We were living right outside of Paris, and I literally fell on my knees, and I started what I now call negotiating with God. I said, God, please, not Duchenne. Like, give me anything, but not Duchenne. And I was sad for Alex, but I was also so scared, because I thought, I am not the mom that can do this. You made a mistake. Like, I don't have that strength or that emotional resilience to take care of a child who's going to be handicapped. Of course, I had Googled it, and I saw these pictures. I was like, I can't carry that. I can't handle that. I just can't do it. How am I supposed to do that? So I was so scared, and I negotiated with God. And I remember I said, God, if it's not Duchenne, I will work for an NGO for the rest of my life for free. Like, I was putting everything out there and just praying and begging and negotiating and saying, please, not Duchenne. So when we got the diagnosis and it was Duchenne, that's when I felt like I lost the negotiation. It was a no, I'm not going to give you what you want. And yes, you are going to have to deal with this. And no, you don't have a choice. So that was my biggest no in life. You see, it wasn't from a person, but it was from life. My anticipation of what is it not, the negotiations, all that was over now. We knew what it was. We had a second opinion. We had the genes confirming it. There was no other way that this could be anything else. We knew. And that's when I went into action mode. I said, okay, then what can we do? What can we do? Enough feeling, enough crying, enough researching. What can we do? And I said, let's move to Dubai. Let's give this kid the best life ever and let's just go and create memories.
Do you think that the mom takes most of the heavy lifting when it comes to these types of situations with their children?
I think the masculine energy in the household does the heavy lifting.
Really? Do you have more masculine energy than your husband?
Yeah.
Does it carry a lot because you have to be both feminine and masculine?
I think when we met, we were young. I was very much in my masculine energy. He is more in his feminine energy, so that was a perfect match. When we got the diagnosis, I went all into like caring for Alex, and that's when my heart opened, because for a woman to be in her masculine energy, that means she didn't feel safe to be in her feminine. Based on her childhood and everything that had happened. It's always a mask. There's not one woman on earth who chooses to be in her masculine as her dominance.
But circumstance forces them into it.
Yeah, it's you have to. It's a mask. So when I was forced to deal with this, I thought, the woman I am right now cannot deal with this. So I have to change me so that I can be able to be the best mom I can be for Alex. And that's when a long journey of personal development started, and theta healing, like you mentioned the other day, and loads of, you name it. I spent a fortune and a lot of time and energy on healing, on how can I do this better? How can I learn that about myself? How can I just become a better person so that I can deal with this? And in that process, the masks started to fall off. So the masculine mask that was protecting me wasn't as much needed.
I see.
So when that started to fall off, I was literally sharing all this with my husband and telling him, can you please step up now?
Yep.
You take over. You start taking a bit more initiative, a bit more decisions, a bit more, you do the things so that I can just spend my time being in the hospital, do the stuff that I have to do for the caring and nurturing part. And please, can I have some rest as well? And I think it's there where we started to drift and split. And he felt like everything I do, it's never good enough. And I felt like it's too heavy what I'm carrying and I need support. And I think that was the beginning of us drifting and ending in us separating about 2 years ago.
Any chance of reconciliation? Or
as we both are today, absolutely not.
Okay. Thank you you've opened up a lot. I really appreciate that. What I will say is I'll reaffirm what I told you about 10 minutes ago. When I see you, the calmness, the control, and the power that sort of emanates from you is extraordinary, really. You're someone who's very much in control of their life, their feelings, their emotions, their mind, and it's amazing.
It's really interesting that you perceive it that way.
For me, that's inspiring, because you've got chaos around you. Right? Others are screaming left, right, and center. You're the calmest person in the room. You're the person who's regulating the emotions, even though your emotions should be all over the place.
But they are sometimes.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
But I want to mention this for other people who are watching. Like, nobody is stoic all the time. I completely lose it. I have moments where I yell at people and then I regret it. I have moments where I cry and I'm like, you weren't even worth my tears. Yeah. I get that.
You're human, of course. But how I see you, and I've watched a few episodes that you've been on terms of the podcast. You've got it together, and it's an amazing thing. Allow the compliment, allow it, because there are people who are going much less than you are from a personal perspective, but yet they don't know how to deal with it. So what kind of advice would you give to people that are going through tough times?
Yeah.
Because I think that there are some really powerful lessons that someone like you can share.
The number one tip I would give, and I wish I knew this earlier, is befriend yourself. Everything you need, from answers to mindset to power is inside of you. Really, you don't need the next guru, you don't need the next book, you don't need the next whatever. It's all there, but we don't trust it. We disconnected from it, especially if you had a difficult childhood and you never felt safe. Then you don't know how it is to feel safe within yourself. And I think the majority of us walks around not feeling safe. We pretend we do, but in reality we don't. Yeah. And the moment when you connect with that, we're saying the safety is inside of me and I can connect to that. The number one tip I would say is go research how to regulate your nervous system. Nervous system regulation is such a big one that we don't talk about enough. And there are many things we can do to reach that point. But realize that it is possible to feel calm. It is possible to feel peace. It is possible to accept all the shit that has happened to you and still feel joy and still feel this motivation and energy to live and make the best of life. It is possible. But when we are going through shit and when it's hard and when you have a million things to manage, you're just on fight or flight mode. You're just on action mode. You're just on getting the next thing done and your to-do list and all the people who need stuff from you. And you just don't think it's possible because you don't. And I've been there for years and it's very hard. And you're just trying to get the next things done and feed everyone who needs to be fed. And then you just crash in bed and then the next day it's the same shit over again. I just want to give this little moment of hope of say, I promise you it is possible, no matter what you've been through, to feel inner calmness. But you have to choose it and say, I am going to make that a priority. I'm going to make my body a priority. I'm going to make my health a priority. I'm going to make me a priority. Especially women, especially mothers, we never do that because we're just in running mode, taking care of our kids.
Love that. Are you ready to take control of the show?
Oh, let's go. I already forgot what it was. Explain again.
So take the bag. There are six balls, golf balls inside the bag. Okay. Take out one by one, and we're going to have a conversation. There's a question on them, so just read it out loud. Hi everyone. I really hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Throughout my career, I've met a lot of people that have anxiety when it comes to public speaking. If you're someone that has that anxiety or nervousness and has always wanted to be more confident in public speaking, but you're also not sure where to go or how to start, the good news is I might be able to help. I have 20 years experience working in corporate communication. I'm a former regional CEO and I've helped to win over 80 different clients through new business pitches. With so many online trainings based on theory, I wanted to share what's helped me in the business world. I've launched my own training program called Master Pitch. The 7-module course covers everything you need to know, whether it's learning how to really understand the audience, how to deliver real impact, or how to effectively storytell. I've got it covered. With practical tips and real examples, you can immediately start turning that anxiety into confidence. Also, in a world of AI, there's never been a more important time to invest in your personal brand and in developing your public speaking. For more information, go to lucaallam.com or drop me an email at info@lucaallam.com. Right, let's get back to the episode.
Choose an uneasy peace negotiation with yourself or peacefully negotiate with others.
So it's funny, we just talked about finding peace within yourself and getting that calmness. So where should you prioritize? Trying to find that sort of inner peace, but it's going to be uneasy. It's going to be difficult. Or someone like you negotiating very peacefully with other people. So what would you prioritize?
Since I have only tasted that yummy feeling of feeling peaceful inside, I will never choose that again.
Okay.
So it's going to be the other one.
Peaceful negotiating with other people.
Yeah.
How easy is it for you to peacefully negotiate with others?
It depends on your mood. It depends on your nervous system. It depends on the level of sleep you had. It depends on the need. How much do you need what the other person has that you think you need?
But you can only control what you do. You can only control how you think, how you act.
Correct.
You can't control
If you believe that somebody else has something that you absolutely need, you become needy. And that makes it difficult to be at peace. It's easy to be at peace if you can walk away and not give a shit.
How many of your negotiations are peaceful?
Unfortunately, more than 90% of global negotiations are competitive.
And what do you mean by competitive?
Competitive means people think I need to win. In order for me to win, you need to lose. You need to cut the pie in half. And that kind of that has been taught in negotiation books. And then there's a small percentage that is collaborative, where people are finally waking up and seeing the power of collaboration. And then in order to have peaceful negotiations from A to Z, you can have peaceful moments within a negotiation process, but from A to Z, peaceful negotiation, I think it's close to zero.
What's the one negotiation that you've had that's been very unpeaceful? Like the hardest one that you've been in, that's all aggressive, very, very dominant. Does that make come to mind?
I've had to negotiate very often with narcissists, and it's very difficult to have peaceful negotiations with narcissists because of many, many reasons. So yeah, whenever I'm dealing with those type of people.
You know, it's so funny because I was going to ask you, there isn't one in there, but I was going to ask you a question about negotiating with narcissists.
Really?
I swear. And
okay.
What I've realized with narcissists is that they play the role of the victim, they can play the role of the savior, and they can play the role of the abuser.
Yep.
Right. All super quickly and within
in the same phrase.
Yeah, within 2 or 3 minutes. And I used to attract a lot of narcissists.
Yeah, same thing.
A lot. But I've done a lot of work through Theta, and I've kind of cleansed that, if you like. And now I can spot a narcissist from a mile away.
Like that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Same with you?
Same
with you. So, and I genuinely believe that there's a higher percentage of people that are narcissists than we think, and that there's a spectrum. You can either be like...
For sure, and data
shows
it now.
Yeah, so super extreme narcissist or mild kind of narcissist, but they're still on the spectrum regardless. How do you deal with narcissists? What's your tip?
And in which way? What do you know?
How do you deal with them in a daily life? Like, not just in negotiation, but you know, I've heard you've got to set boundaries. You've got to make sure that you don't get spun into their own webs. You've got to disassociate certain things. That you cannot allow yourself get into an emotional state because they prey on that.
Yep.
But how do you personally deal with all of that?
Well, recognizing them is number one. So learn about it. Learn about how you can recognize one, because as you rightfully said, the percentage of people who have NPD is way higher than the official numbers show. Narcissistic personality disorder. Sorry, going into jargon now.
I like that. No, that's where your 3 graduate degrees come out. I love that.
Because there's a big difference between somebody having that personality of narcissistic personality disorder, which is a real disorder of being narcissistic. All of us are a little bit narcissistic here and there. That's fine. If it's a behavior, that's okay. But if it's personality trait, so you are like that and you're going to be like that tomorrow and you're going to be like that the next day, that's when it becomes difficult. And indeed, we used to think it's between 1% to 2% of the population. But that's the percentage that has been diagnosed.
Yeah, and extreme versions, yeah.
And based on the personality type, of course they're not going to go get the diagnosis because there's nothing wrong with them. And that's why they're not in the numbers. They
slip under the radar.
They're not in the numbers, exactly. So there are some doctors that now say we need to get rid of the diagnosis and just look at people and say, okay, based on A, B, C, and D, you are a narcissist. Okay?
Can you ever win a negotiation with a narcissist?
Yes, you can, by walking away.
That's how you win. That's how you win a negotiation.
By walking away, by not playing the game, by staying true to your truth, and not let them influence that, and by focusing on your needs and getting rid of, and for some people this is a form of grief, getting rid of the need to feel understood.
Did you marry a narcissist?
No, I didn't.
Okay. With your parents, either?
I have family members who are narcissistic. I have worked for narcissistic bosses. I have partnered with narcissistic people. I have been abused. And yeah.
It's tough.
I think that's enough.
Yes, I think you get
and then
enough.
some, obviously, at work and with clients. And
it's really tough. And it's a silent killer, really. They can destroy you. They can destroy you over a period of time. You don't even know what's happening.
But I also believe, and I'm an eternal optimist. I always feel like, silver lining. Why did this happen? What's the lesson in there? And I truly believe narcissists come in our lives as empaths, because as empaths, we tend to attract them like magnets, to show us so much. Narcissists are the ones who show us that we are overgivers.
They teach us.
Because they are master takers, and we are master givers. At which expense, right? So I think every empath will go through their lives meeting with at least one narcissist, but not like, oh, I met you at the supermarket, like proper relationship in any form. And that will open their eyes if they want to. And if they don't, they will meet another one and another one and another one until the pain is big enough.
Yeah.
But the gift is, once you see it, you can never unsee it. And then you will be...
It's like the Matrix.
Yeah, for the rest of your life, you're good. You know, it's like you're vaccinated. It's in your system, you're done.
You got 5 more balls. Let's crack on.
Winning them softly with empathy, and understanding or dominating with power and clouds. Oh, definitely winning them softly.
Do you like that play on words? Killing them softly, but this is winning them softly.
Love it. Yeah, I'm choosing that.
So how do you win?
time.
How do you win softly in a negotiation?
By being clear on your own needs,
Mm-hmm.
by being authentic. I think there are too many people who see
What's that mean?
negotiation
What
as
does
this thing.
authentic mean?
Authentic is you have done the work to understand who you are,
Okay.
and you show up as that version in every setting. You're the same with your boss, you're the same with your kids, you're the same with your partner, you're the same at work, you're the same at home. You know, I have so many times people who meet me and they're like, you're exactly like you are on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm like, how can I
That's
be
a good
different?
thing. That's a good thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so just be you. And I know that's so cliche, but how can you be you if you don't know who you are? You know? And I think there's a shift that happens around 40s, around midlife, where both men and women learn more about themselves and get liberated from the desire to be liked,
Yeah.
which is so powerful.
If they've done the work.
If they've done the work,
Yes.
if they've gone through enough shit. Otherwise, life will give you more. Don't worry.
Yeah, I learned this from one of the episodes. I mentioned it a couple of times. Dr. Saliha Afridi, great lady. She
Yes,
talks about the second adulthood. So it's about not midlife crisis. It's about rediscovering who you were always meant to be.
Oh,
and I love that.
That's beautiful.
I absolutely love that. And it sort of stayed with me on the episode. See, I learn from people. I was never a guy, and my parents, if they're watching, I never studied. You look me in a room, I couldn't look at a book. But I learned through asking questions. That's my sort of go-to education play. And I learned so much from someone like that. People like Dr. Saliha are amazing. And I've learned already a lot from yourself. The benefit of rediscovering yourself makes you feel like it was always there. You're not happy to be something else or something new. So it's a very different word than discovering, or rediscovering. Rediscovering for me, that's everything.
It's beautiful.
So do the work, rediscover who you're always meant to be. And then once that's out, just enjoy the rest of whatever days you have left and make the biggest impact you can. And you can only do that, you can only be authentic if you've done the work. I hate people who talk about being authentic and they have no idea what it means.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's just this word that people throw around.
Yeah, look.
I'm totally with you.
Look. Last week, and this is when you commented on the post. I don't open up a lot on LinkedIn. Okay, I don't open up a lot in social, but I'm learning to do that. Not because I want to sort of show a different side of me. I'm doing it because I'm trying to help other people realize that it's okay to do it.
Yes.
That's the key.
That's why I commented on it. It's
Yeah.
people like you and me who need to share these things more openly, because it allows people to say, oh, if they went through it.
That's it. Someone said, oh, it's good.
Realization that they feel.
Oh, you're a CEO can say that, a former CEO can say that. It's like, yeah, you can, because it's real. And you know it's real because of the title that they used to have. I used to care about the title. It's complete nonsense, by the way. Honestly, for me, it's complete nonsense.
But it's normal also. Let's give us some grace. When we grow up, we don't know better. So, of course, the titles matter and the salary. Why do you think I stayed in finance for 15 years?
Hello, money.
I love
Ka-ching.
I loved the first few years, but the rest was just, oh my God, another bonus. Oh my God. And it was great.
Oh, what a nightmare, another bonus. I was going to ask you, how do you get paid as a negotiator? Like, how does that work? If you win or you lose or whatever the case is, you're still going to get paid, right? Is there like bonuses based on outcomes?
It depends. So when we have a deal based on the situation, it's either a fixed fee. So then I'm like, it doesn't matter. If
you charge
win,
a lot?
keep everything.
You charge a lot?
Not for the value I bring.
Fair enough. Should we do another ball?
An unsuccessful values-first deal or achieve a value-less victory, which legacy remains?
So which legacy would you prefer? Which legacy remains?
If I'm negotiating for myself, values-first deal. If I'm negotiating for a client, the victory.
At all costs.
Yeah.
So how difficult is that a line to walk between?
It's not that difficult because I'm now...
Okay.
No, because I wasn't always there, so I know what you're going to ask, and this is a very easy one. I'm now fortunate enough to be able to choose my clients, and I choose them based on their values.
Okay.
If they come and they're like, we want to win this because we want to screw them, and and I don't feel aligned with the way they negotiate or their approach or why they want to win, I just don't work with them. So the ones I work with, they're amazing people, and I want them to win.
But beforehand, when you didn't have the luxury of being able to pick and choose. By the way, I can see you going in already. I want to talk.
Okay, sorry.
Just a little bit longer.
Okay.
But in the beginning, you didn't have the luxury of being able to choose, right? You could be working literally with the devil.
No.
And trying to negotiate.
No, that's the thing. I never did. When there were companies that reached out to me where I wasn't feeling aligned with what they did, I would either say no, even if I didn't earn as much as I do now, or I would say, I can't do consulting, but I can train your teams. So obviously, I've never worked with people in certain industries that I would never support, not even a training. For example, one sector that I always say no to, no matter how much money they throw at me, is politics. I refuse to teach political parties because in order to win a negotiation that is value aligned, as the ball said, you need to know what the values are and what the needs are. And I feel like in big global international negotiations, you don't know, because as a negotiator, they don't tell you. They don't tell you what the bigger picture is. They don't tell you what matters. They don't tell you what's behind the negotiation that you're working on. So I don't want to be caught up in a negotiation where I know that maybe if I win this, it will serve a cause that I don't support.
Yeah. Needing to know all the facts as well, and the context.
I need to know, if I win this and I bring this home, where does that fit in? And am I aligned with that? Because that gives me the motivation to go and fight when it becomes hard.
Yeah. So the reason I brought up, because you mentioned politics and things you stay away from. When you look at the world leaders now, how much of a role is negotiation as part of their leadership style? Like, how big is it? If you're a good negotiator, how far does that get you into leadership and running a country?
The thing is, my opinion about politics is not mainstream. I don't believe in politics it is as they show us on TV. I think there's a lot happening that we have no idea about. I think people don't get put there because of merit, but because of a million other things that you and I have nothing, no knowledge of.
Deep state?
I think it's a big show, and I don't want to be part of it. Okay. So, that's why I don't vote.
So you're using your word stop here as your safe word, or you're avoiding it? Can I go a bit deeper?
I avoided it twice, right?
Yeah, but you didn't use your word. You didn't use the safe word, so that's why I'm keep going.
We can go there if you want to, but yeah, it is. As I said, I think there is a lot that normal people like you and me have absolutely no idea about, and we are getting this illusion like there are two parties, and you actually have something to say, and it's not all rigged. And come on.
Yeah, I agree with you. Trump. How do you find him as a negotiator?
I think President Trump, because of his background as a businessman and not born as a political leader, has skills in getting things done. Now,
is he an empath? No.
Absolutely not.
Is he calm? No.
He is NPD, like all over the place. Of course. And there was this report that came out with I don't know how many psychiatrists that signed with their names saying, of course, Donald Trump is narcissistic. Yeah. Of course, like you don't need to know anything about narcissism to recognize that. And
you don't need to be a learned person to know that.
No, that's crystal clear. So then when you deal with him, you have to deal with him like you deal with a narcissist. Of course, you cannot expect Donald Trump to feel empathy for anything or anyone. Like that part just doesn't work.
Okay, should we do another ball?
Sure. Rank in toughness to negotiate with. I don't even know what the other part is, but I'm choosing the other one. Or partner, toddler, boss, client, parent.
So generally, if you're gonna, who's the toughest to negotiate with? I mean, I'm looking at it as someone who has a toddler. And right now, negotiating with a toddler is extremely difficult. I haven't won anything with my toddler. I've got two of them.
Yep.
So, but then I thought, everyone negotiates every day. We're constantly negotiating
100%.
With our family, with our friends, with our work colleagues. So who do you think is the toughest person to negotiate with in general from all of those different categories?
As a parent, your children, 100%.
Okay.
Because it's very difficult to negotiate with somebody you love, and we love our children. 2, especially as empaths, you don't want them to suffer. So you see them struggle in the negotiation, you want them to win.
You want to help them.
You want to help them. So that doesn't help you. 3, children have no notion of time. They're negotiating with something, they can go on forever and ever and ever, and they just don't stop.
My 2-year-old Oliver, he does not stop. I want.
He's focused on what he needs, and he just won't stop. And sometimes you have a negotiation that ends because, like, they have to sleep, and they wake up the next day. They just continue.
You would think they have to sleep. It just keeps on going. I'm like, where does he get the esophagus for your from? Where does he get the energy from? It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going with kids first. They're the toughest to negotiate with. Great. Next.
For sure. Then I would say your partner, for the same reason, because you love them.
Yeah.
That's why divorce negotiations can become so tough, because there's a fine line between love and hate.
How often? What's a healthy level of negotiation or arguing that you think is acceptable in a household?
I think it doesn't matter how many disagreements you have, as long as you know how to fix it.
Okay.
So it's not the conflict, it's not the negotiation that matters, it's the resolving the conflict that matters.
How do I win an argument with my wife?
By being focused on your needs, and by being empathetic enough to want to understand her needs, and then have the emotional expression and courage to talk about needs and not wants and asks.
Yeah, I haven't won an argument in about 5 years.
That's not true.
It's very true.
I need to ask her.
So we're going kids first. Then we're going partner.
Yeah.
Who's the third toughest to negotiate with?
I would say your parents, still for the same thing. Because,
emotions. So
because
emotions
you love them, or because you blame them. So emotions are high.
Do you blame your parents or anything?
Not anymore. I've done the work. So then we have boss and client.
Yeah.
I would say boss because there is a dependency thing. And then client last, yeah.
Because there isn't a dependency thing as much. There's less.
I mean, there is if you're working, like, people like you and me who are our own boss, and our clients are the ones who pay us in the end. But you can always choose to.
So the trend I'm getting from what you're saying is the more emotionally you are connected, the harder it is to negotiate.
100%. It's much easier for me to negotiate on behalf of my clients or for my clients, because I'm not emotionally involved, than it is to negotiate for myself.
What about negotiating with yourself?
Oh, are we going to do another episode?
What about
a big one.
So talk to me about it, because that's the one I left out deliberately, because that's the one closest to home, and in theory, you should love yourself more than you love anybody, right?
But we don't.
So if I add yourself or into that ranking, where would you put oneself?
Listen, it's very simple. All of us have at least one goal, okay? One thing that we want to achieve, and we know exactly what we have to do to achieve it. We don't need a coach, we don't need training, we don't need to spend money, nothing. We know how to do it, and we don't do it. Why is that? Because there's an internal negotiation happening, and the part that doesn't want it wins. So when we become aware of that, this is, I think, the most powerful tool to become more self-aware, become more powerful, and take your power back from everyone and every place you left it. It's to have what I call inner peace negotiations.
Sounds nice.
I will explain it in 5 minutes because it's so powerful to do. And I do this regularly. So I invite you to sit on a table, at the top of the table, the leadership position of the table. And imagine on the right of you, 2 chairs. On the left of you, 2 chairs. Okay? You start with the right side of you. And you invite the younger version of you between 0 and 10 to have a seat at the table. So this is all happening in your mind, yeah? But I do invite you to actually sit at that table, okay? Sit at the table, and on your right side, invite somebody, you, between 0 and 10. And just visualize what shows up. How old is he or she, okay? You ask, hey, welcome, how old are you? Please have a seat. I'll get back to you in a second, okay? Then the seat next to that person is going to be a version of you between 10 and 20. Same thing, teenage years, you just invite them and say, hey, how old are you?
I had a lot of spots between 10 and 20. Yeah.
And you give them space. Yeah, I have one negotiation at a time, yeah? Then, across you is going to be the version between 20 and now. No matter what age you are, okay? You are seated there as the version of you right now. Okay, so you're 42, 43, whatever. Across you is the version of you between 20 and now. Then on the left-hand side is your higher self. The version of you that you're aiming to become, that is already further ahead, and has achieved the goals that you want to achieve, has become the person that you want to become. Okay, she's sitting on your left side, or he, and is there. Then the seat that is left is empty, and you can choose to bring in anybody in the entire world, dead or alive. That energy and that spirit is going to come in and sit there and can recommend anything you want, okay? So then what do? We open the peace negotiations, and you go one by one, and you step into the most empathetic version of yourself that you can be in that moment. So let's say you're 40 years old, the most empathetic 40-year-old that you can be. And you start negotiations, you start a dialogue just like a boardroom negotiation, and you give time and attention to that kid between 0 and 10, and you say, tell me how old you are and tell me what you need. And you connect with them, and you take the time it needs. These type of negotiations can go from 10 minutes to 10 hours, based on how much willing you are to give yourself time, to give yourself love, to give yourself forgiveness, or anything else that comes up. Because you're going to now have a dialogue with that child and ask that child, what do you need? What is happening for you? What are you going through? And it will just send you memories. This thing happened, that thing happened. This is what I thought. This is what I needed. And now this is the beauty part, and this is the healing part. I invite you to connect with that version, sit next to it and say, can I give you a hug? Can I touch you? And you respect whatever they want, and say the following words. These are healing. I am here now. I got you now. You will never, ever be alone again.
Goosebumps.
And that version of you connects with that younger version of you, and you make peace. And you promise that version, I will come and check in on you again. Whatever need was discussed in that moment, you will say, I will give that to you now. And it's universal needs. And you will recognize, if you do this often, that it's often the same things that come back. It's safety, it's protection, it's recognition, it's being seen, it's love, it's support.
Yeah.
Universal needs that we all have.
I love that.
And you fill your cup. That's what you're doing. You're giving yourself, and you're making that connection. And then when you make peace, you ask that version of you to come, give you a hug, and you merge. You become one. It's not two anymore. It's you, because it's you, right? It's a version of you. So you become one. Boom. Done. And then you leave with the promise, I'll check in on you again.
It's beautiful.
Then you go to the next one. And whenever you feel lost or you don't know, you have the better version of you on your left side that can always come in and support, the higher version of you, the one that already knows. If you think you don't know. But often you don't need that person because you do know.
100%. How often have you done this?
Oof, many times. Many times. And I help my clients go through it, and either I explain it, they do it, or we go through it together, and it's always so powerful, because we have so many versions of us that need us, that we neglect, that we push away, that we feel ashamed of, or that we don't even know that we're there. Because stuff happened, we put it on the drug, we move on.
Yeah. Is there a favorite version of yourself that comes to mind?
My favorite version of myself right now is me now.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Should we do another ball? How's your eyesight? It's a good test.
If negotiation is a dance, how do you know who's leading who and who picks the dance? Oh my God. What a question, Luca.
So I've heard
Oof.
I've heard you say it is a dance.
Yeah.
Then there's always two to tango. Who leads who? There's always someone who leads. And then what type of music you're listening to?
Yep.
To do the dance.
So it's two questions, so I have two answers. The first question is who's leading who, and the second one is who picks the dance, right? And I'm super happy that I picked this ball now after what I just explained, because if we take it back to the inner peace negotiations, the one who picks the dance is always the version of you that needs something from you. So it's going to be the kid. He picks the dance, he or she, because he or she is coming to you with a need. So on a negotiation table, it will be the one who, if it's like a David-Goliath situation, it's going to be David.
Yeah.
Okay? So the one who has less perceived negotiation power leads the dance. Why? Because if you're leading, you can allow them that. Because as a negotiator, you always want to give them some form of power.
Yeah.
So that they feel empowered.
Full sense of, in a way.
So that when you can't give them something, they are more inclined to accept it.
Very nice.
Okay.
Last one.
What plays more decisive negotiation role? Rationalize your ego or use your ego rationally? Man, did you use ChatGPT to make these questions? These are amazing.
These are all done by me.
Impressive.
Thank you.
I know you have depth. That's why I came on your show. I think wanting to rationalize your ego is another beautifully said attempt, but not always possible.
Okay.
So I would say negotiate with your ego. Give it place to be.
You're giving a third option.
You know?
You're not answering the question. Because you've always said you can't have ego, right? You can't have ego in negotiation.
Well, what I always say is ego is a great motivator, but a lousy negotiator. We need ego to give us the motivation to say no, to start a difficult conversation, to go in a tough negotiation. That's what ego does. Like, hey, I don't agree with this.
Yeah.
And we need that because otherwise you would be a doormat.
So it's a catalyst.
So ego plays a role. Exactly.
But it's not.
But once you're on the negotiation table, you need to be able to recognize your ego and say, I am not going to make decisions based on you.
Yeah, so it's really the first one. It's use your ego rationally. Because you use it only once, and that's at the beginning.
Exactly. So that's the second part, indeed. Use your ego rationally or negotiate with it and say, listen, this is you talking, and I cannot let you decide. But welcome along if you need to motivate me for the next time again. So I don't agree when people say you need to put your ego in your pocket. How do you do that? Ego, if ego didn't have a purpose, we wouldn't have it. If emotions didn't have a purpose, we wouldn't be born with it. Like God didn't make mistakes. There is a reason it's there. So we need to befriend them and use them, but know what's your role and what isn't your role.
Love it. I've got the final ball for you. So it's not over yet. All right. Can I call you Luce? Have I earned that or not yet?
Yeah, you can call me Luce now.
Oh, that means so much, you big romantic, you positive person, bundle of mush. So, look, in all seriousness, you've had an unbelievable career so far, and it's still going, and an unbelievable set of challenges that you are continually facing on a daily basis. What is that one insight that's unique to you, that overriding insight that you would like to share with the audience? This ball is blank, but I'll use it as a prop.
I would love people to know that they are way more powerful than they think. So what I invite the audience to do is please, instead of just listening to this wonderful conversation that we just had, apply it. Do that inner peace negotiation exercise that I explained. Connect with a version of you. You don't have to do all of them if you don't want to, but at least start with one version. Just take a moment for yourself, sit still, connect deep inside and say, which version of me needs me now? And see what comes up. And connect. And be that big, older sister or parent or whatever that version of you needs. And make in that moment a little bit of peace with yourself. Because that's where your power lies. The more you connect with yourself, the more you accept yourself, the more you accept your past, the more you accept all the shit you've been dealt with, and we all have our fair share, the more you can say, okay, this is my life, okay, this is my journey, okay, this is my hardship. From everything we've been through, from abuse to war, like we all been through something, or will go through something. Try to make peace with it. Try to get out of the victim role that is holding us back, and try to give yourself what it is that you need. Connect with the universal need that you have, and then give it to yourself. That will empower yourself, because now you're stepping up into the version of you that can give it. So that's empowering. And then you just made one little step towards peace with yourself. One little step, one little step, one little step. And if you keep doing that, at one point, you will be at peace with yourself. And that's where the real power comes, because when you're at peace with yourself and you accept yourself as you are, including the past and all the shit you've done, which we all have, then nobody can with you. Because you're good. You're good. You're good with who you are. So it doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter what people write on social media. It doesn't matter if you don't get the attention you want. It doesn't matter if you don't reach that goal. Because now your worth is not linked anymore to what you do or what other people say.
Yeah.
You love yourself because you are, and not by something that you did to deserve that love. It's the same as the way we love children, whether it's your own children or somebody else's children. My question is always, why do you love them? You have 2 children, right? Well, why do you love them?
Just feels easy. I don't know. I can't
But what
explain
have
it.
they done to
They haven't
deserve
done it.
your love?
They haven't. They were born.
Or what have they achieved?
Yeah. They've held their head up, they've walked, and they've talked. There's not much else that's going on.
Nothing. They just are.
Yeah.
And you love them.
Exactly. Unconditionally.
You just love them. And they haven't done anything to deserve that. And yet we don't treat ourselves that way.
Yeah.
We don't love ourselves just because we are. And if you come to that point where you finally make peace with yourself, that's where that inner love automatically comes. And it's by feeling that inner love that you can then love the world and you can love others, because you stop seeing people through what they show and their mistakes and their personas and their masks. You see through it, and you see that inner kid inside of them that also just wants to be loved. I think in the end, we begin with love and we end with love.
I love it. And I have loved this conversation. One of my favorite conversations I've had on the show.
Oh, wow. And you've had many amazing guests. I
I've had a few.
YouTubed you.
For that, thank you. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
That's it.
You're a remarkable individual, person, human being. And I sincerely wish you all the very best with everything that you're going through, that you're going to face. But you're going to smash it. You're incredible. So
I'm
I'm not worried. I'm not worried about you at all.
Thank you so much. You see, I'm receiving now. So thank you very much for that. And I also want to thank you for the way you're setting this up, right? I mean, you're doing all this work inside of your own house and spending all this money and time and energy and the whole mug story. And you just showed me all the mugs you have from other guests and how you appreciate it and value it. And no,
We didn't see this either. This was behind you the entire time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I did see something with the wheelchair. What was that about? But I haven't seen the flags. That's beautiful. Oh my goodness. That is amazing. I absolutely love it. So you see those little things. And again, I've been on a million podcasts, and not every podcast host does that. You are receiving your guests. You've done your homework. You read about them. You've had a few conversations before coming. You're doing all that work, and you don't have to. So that shows empathy. That shows generosity. That shows you're giving, right? You're giving. You're giving back to your audience, and you're thinking about them. And that's just beautiful. And I think that naturally happens when people do the work and they have peace with themselves. Now they can show up even better for other people. And in the end, I believe true world peace, if we forget about stupid politicians, true world peace begins with inner peace. And if enough people have that, it's like this little light bulb here, and before you know it, it's beautiful.
I love that. Thank you for
let's do
sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're very welcome.
On that note, guys, thanks so much for watching, for listening, and I will see you very soon on Luca's Inside Track. Take care.